Well, hello, free people of the Rocky Mountain region. This is the sixth video in a series with Natalie Metten and myself regarding the 2023 Colorado property tax situation. In the fifth part, Natalie and I talked about transparency and the lack of it in Arapahoe County in relation to a potential anti-Tabor ballot initiative here in 2023. In this video, we'll be talking about Initiative 50. Well, Natalie, I hope you are well, and thank you for this presentation.
Glad to be here. So I'm going to run through history and where we are now, present. Because there's a lot of people who don't actually know this. But just to start with the basis, how we got here is we know there's going to be a huge spike in property taxes. Values will continue to grow and grow, but the expected increases we're going to see on that January 2024 bill, the valuation increases, which doesn't necessarily mean a tax increase, depends on your situation, but the value is going up double digits, 25 to 40%. Got Douglas County here at 47%. Resort areas even up in the 60%. So there's been a lot of conversation about property tax. And so it's set for January 2024. But this isn't a new issue in Colorado. We can go back to and I've got some really cool old documentation. I'll show a couple slides here. In the 1987-1997 timeframe, there was a group formed called the Association of Colorado Taxpayers. And that included John and Diane Cox, Fred Holden, Clyde Harkins, Catherine Anderson, Joe Dodge, Douglas Bruce, and others. It was about a sheet full of people who were heavy-duty activists. And their main goal was in reducing specifically property taxes is where it generated from. So we're going back, 1987, even before that is when this has been going on. And during that period of time, it's kind of interesting. And I've got this book with the original minutes and everything in it. It's pretty cool. From this discussion that was going on. So I don't know actually who else in Colorado has that historical document, and I'll show you a couple slides. But as that group progressed on, and there were like typical political grassroots organizations, there was disagreements. And what ultimately occurred was that Douglas Bruce, Fred Holden, and Clyde Harkins left the group and resigned. And from there on, Douglas Bruce went on with his amendment. And after multiple attempts there, finally passed, and that became as what's known as our Taxpayers' Bill of Rights. So, but basically what I'm saying is I have the original documentation from this. I mean, this is like, this should go actually like in a safe or something for me. I shouldn't be so careless with it. But I mean, the handwritten notes and everything. And so what that evolved into, as I said, was as our Taxpayers' Bill of Rights. So, and again, it was called the Association of Colorado Taxpayers. So it was shortened down to ACT. And I just scanned this tonight, the minutes from 1987 laying out. And I don't know why they spelled amendment with two M's. And that's bugged me because, typos stick out. But I'm actually thinking, I actually still own an old typewriter. I've got one of those IBM, like 400-pound typewriters in the basement. And sometimes the keys did stick, right? Even like regular keyboards, but still a reason, because all the rest of the minutes are pretty much perfect. And it describes the history there. But, they were talking about lowering the property tax. And I scanned one of the pages here. We have Amendment 88, where they were proposing a 1% increase in that valuation. And somebody can scroll in and read that, but those are handwritten notes that are there. So this discussion's been going on for a while. And then Taxpayers' Bill of Rights was passed. And fast forward to where we are now. The summary is there's too many voters who were persuaded by vague ballot language, especially in the early years, right after Tabor had passed and people didn't understand what they had. And they gave away their rights. And the exemption, here's really one of the worst problems. There's a 4-year limit on the time that government can keep excess revenues, or what's known as debrucing or detabor. Detabor is what I prefer to call it. And that is written in there, and the author of Tabor is still alive, so he can verify that. But it was never meant to be that way. any longer than the 4-year period. Now the government could come back and ask for another 4 years. That would be fine. But that's what's led up to now this property tax crisis in a way, is because those built-in protections were given away. And who crafted the language for the ballot? The politicians and the bureaucrats created the language. So when they made it purposefully vague so that people didn't know what they were doing and tried to frame up the language, it just turns into plain deceit, is all that is. So now to recent history, the voters have repealed the Gallagher Amendment, and that was a scale that was going to keep residential property taxes lower. That's been removed. We've got the property tax spike, our value spike, which again can equate to taxes during that 2020 to 2022 period. But then falling into, and this is assuming that somebody doesn't have their Tabor protections or the annual mill levy 5.5% cap. And you and I have talked about that in previous episodes. Those protections built in the law, we've still got them both here in Jeffco. Other government bodies do too. Need to check though. But May 2023, state legislators, during the last week of the session, and I witnessed this all personally and suffered pains actually from it, to watch when they rammed Senate Bill 303 and House Bill 1311, especially through at the last minute, which has created this Proposition HH, which horrible hoax, whatever you want to call it. And, they limited public notice, they limited public comment, and they shut down the legislators' the process to have that discussion. And because of this, one is taking our Tabor refunds to minimally lower the skyrocketing 2024 property tax bill. And the renters really get screwed in the deal. So now we jump to today. What are we going to do? So Suzanne Tahari and Michael Fields were approved to circulate Citizen Initiative number 50. I've talked about the Citizen Initiative process before. It's a very great thing we've got to be able to use, because obviously bureaucrats and government officials don't want to rein themselves in, right? They want unlimited power. To have unlimited power, it helps when you have unlimited money. And so in fighting this property tax skyrocketing spike that we're going to see, there's a Citizen Initiative. It's notable that even though signature gathering would occur this year, it wouldn't be on the ballot until 2024. Okay. And that's because bureaucrats created some of these rules to do that. So a tax increase can be on, plain old tax increase can be on the ballot this year, but a plain old tax cut can't be on the ballot. That's government creating rules for you. Okay. Is that fair? Do you think that's fair, Brandon?
That is not at all fair.
So, right, he who writes the rules, right? Well, we're supposed to have these protections. So anyway, back to Initiative 50. What it basically would do is cap a 4% limit on statewide property taxes. So going back to, we've talked about property taxes before. Property taxes are they're not collected by the state. They're collected by the local multitude of special governments, local governments, special districts, cities, counties, all of those, fire districts, park and rec districts, the list goes on. Got to look at your property tax bill to know. And if you're a renter, you don't really know what built-in things you're paying. But this measure would limit it at a statewide level. And so this is an issue that really volunteers and those who are involved, and those, especially if there's a lot of people, a lot of politicos who like to write up their voter guide. They really need to be educated on the ballot to know, how this will work. But in simple terms, it's capping 4%, kind of cross that average. And understanding the ins and outs of 50. There's a lot of people don't know how this process works. With the initiative process, one of the steps is understanding where's the documents at, how you're going to go listen, what are these questions that people will come up with. And I thought it'd be good to put some slides together about that. So instead of going to the Secretary of State, which is the election department, where you really would start with is going to leg, it's leg for legislature, leg.colorado.gov. And as you can see in the screenshot here, you're going to the initiatives section. The initiatives, then as you drill down, you're going to be able to find the one you're looking for, and they've got titles. So if you want to go and look at something else or just curiosity, they're all listed there. But I went to initiative number 50, what we're talking about, and those yellow links are hyperlinks that'll open those documents. And, especially easy to, the text of this measure is pretty easy to understand. It's one page versus the legislature can give you 100-pager. I mean, Prop HHs, that's well past 40 pages. If memory serves, it might be 80 pages. Compared to this is one page. It's easy to digest. But going to the fiscal summary, which that's two of the links here, that even boils it down even more, especially on complex bills. So you go there, but then going back to the steps, one of the very first steps once you initiated a petition is you go through a review and comment process. That's where legal staff down at the state capitol will look over your proposal, go through it and propose questions to clarify what you mean. Maybe add suggestions as to language or text or to conform with a normal procedure. And so that documents are posted and available. I give thumbs up for that so they'd be able to see that. But even better is there's a recording that the petition proponents have to go down to the Capitol with the staff meeting, and that is recorded, and the proponents will need to go through this answers for all of these different things. They don't absolutely have to answer, but typically do. And that recording, you can get to that. And where that's found is if you're going again to leg.colorado.gov, instead of going to initiatives, you go to the watch and listen section. Then it can get a little complex unless just remember this, because you got all these committees. You got the House committees, the Senate committees, you got interim committees, you got year-round committees, you got this. You're like, where's this recording? So if you go all the way down to the very bottom and you go to other committees, as I've highlighted here in the screenshot, all the way at the bottom, because it took me tonight when I was doing the screenshot, like, where is this thing? And I've been in there 100 times. That will take you to this page. You just filter it, go to recordings, and there's audio there. Click on it, and you'll be able to get into some of the nitty-gritty of the measure, because there are some good questions posed, and especially if you go out circulating, and as we go into November ballot issues, and I mean circulating for signatures, because there's some things to learn in this. Going back to this property tax cap has just hit the street, so it's brand new. And as a reminder, we've got Prop HH on the November ballot. So people should keep in mind 50 won't be on this year's ballot. Signatures would be gathered, are starting to be gathered this year. It won't be till 2024, it's on the ballot. Prop HH is on the November ballot. That uses our Tabor refunds to minimally reduce property taxes. Renters really get screwed. There's a call for a special session. The governor hasn't answered that yet. Honestly, I'm fearful of a special session. I'm worried about tricks. I mean, there was enough putting Prop HH through with it in a week's amount of time, cutting off testimony, carve outs that with the special session, they've had so much time to plan for it. I don't know what they would include in that. And there we go. So we got Initiative 50 on the street, and it's going to be an exciting election season.
Definitely. Well, yeah, the big call to action, of course, this year, stopping HH, and then going into 24 as you said, going in through this year as well, getting those signatures, getting Proposition 50 on the ballot, and then seeing what it looks like in its final form there, I suppose, and getting it on the ballot and getting it passed in 2024. I think Initiative 50 is a great idea, but in my mind at least, I think that it does leave room for some further opportunity for other initiatives, maybe at different levels, or other opportunities to further restrict the government's ability to take our property tax money. And there's still some opportunity there, if you ask me.
Well, I would love to see Tabor reinstated to what it was meant to be. A 4-year term, a 4-year timeout was all that would be allowed. And the way I think of that really is 4 years job performance. You wouldn't let it, just give, you would want to continue to evaluate. Every 4 years, you've got another elected senator, another elected city councilor. I mean, they do stagger them, but that's what it was meant to be for that term. Restoring Tabor in its entirety as it was meant to be. I mean, for the author, I find this incredible. The author is still alive. Area code 719-550-0010. You can call, anybody can call him up and ask him, did you mean it to be 4 years? And he will say yes. And he will get right to the point. He's usually not a long phone call person.
Well, great. Well, great. Well, thank you very much, Natalie, for explaining Initiative 50 and its value to helping property tax owners here, property tax payers and property owners here in Colorado. And I look forward to seeing the further efforts of liberty activists across the state and what else can be done to stop the government's schemes here.
Well, something needs to occur. We know Prop 8 you got to go down, but we also can't take 40% tax increase come January. It's going to, that does not help affordability. And the government shouldn't reap the benefit and create that hardship on property owners. And Prop HH, what it does to renters, and it's supposed to be like 40% renters, maybe even a little more, and to take away their refund to use just for a select property class, that wasn't what Tabor was meant to do. So,
Well, great points. And I look forward to hearing more about this, learning more as we continue on here. So thank you so much.